I make sure I wake up before the house does. But I don't do that in order to organize things for them. I do that for me. So it means for me, that means I begin my day. I wash my face with an intention. Everything I do in those, it could be 5 minutes and it could be 30 minutes. And trust me, once you start with 5 to 15, you're going to want more mama time. It's gonna be like critical. And everything you do in those, and I'm telling you, because that will ripple, those 10 to 15 minutes will ripple throughout your day. And you have a peaceful cup of coffee. And while you're mixing your coffee, you give yourself a good, positive intention. It's going to be a really good day today.
Hey, and welcome to the Ambitious Bookkeeper podcast. I'm Serena Shoup. I am a CPA and mom of 3, and I'm running a virtual bookkeeping business mostly from my home. You're in the right place if you're a bookkeeper, accountant, or an accounting student, and you know that your purpose is bigger than sitting in a cubicle. If you're ready to learn some actionable tips and strategies to help you start and grow a bookkeeping or accounting business, I hope you stick around. Welcome back to the Ambitious Bookkeeper podcast. Today, we are moving things a little more mindset related, and I know a lot of you love these episodes. So I have a special guest. Her name is Sharon, and I don't want to mess up your last name. I should have asked you this before we hit record, but I'm going to let you introduce yourself and your background, and then we'll dive into wherever the conversation takes us.
Sounds good. My name is Sharon Hefetz, and I'm a mother of 3, a wife, an entrepreneur, a published author, and a mindset coach, and mainly just a soul amongst other souls trying to figure it all out and remembering to see the beauty and the connection in everything and everyone I come across.
Oh, I love it. And now I'm trying to remember exactly where we connected. Was it the Business with Ease Summit? Okay, right. Just making sure, because I know I've made a lot of connections in the past couple months, and some of them have been on Alignable, and some of them through this summit that we did, which was amazing. Such great connections through that. But yeah, so we connected. We were both presenting on the summit, and I think we did like a networking call between all the presenters and exchanged information on that and got to kind of know each other through that. So nice. I'm always open to meeting new people, and I feel like there's always a reason certain people enter our lives. And just before we hit record, I mean, we had an amazing conversation. I was like, we should have recorded this, but yeah, there's always a reason why people get connected, and you may not understand it until later on. But so with that, you are a mindset coach, and I know that you work a lot with moms in business or otherwise. Right. I don't know if you work with moms that are not in business, but kind of balancing that motherhood and the mindset behind that and everything. So I thought it would be really, really good to have you on the podcast, as a lot of our listeners are mothers or parents and have kids at home while they're trying to build a business, or kids in school. And there's just so much related to that, and kind of the guilt that you end up having with
so much guilt, so much
like balancing motherhood and business. And so I wanted to dive into that today, because it has come up with our audience too, of like asking, like, how do I balance that and how do I deal with it? And the honest answer is like, sometimes I don't deal with it.
Exactly.
So,
and that's okay. The question is, do you know that that's okay? It's okay.
Yeah.
We're all there, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I started my entrepreneurial journey when I was around 20, and went out to the world trying to conquer it, and went into business and had a business with my husband. We went out to Mexico just because it sounded fun. We didn't know the language. We knew numbers, and, and we built our business, and we built a family while doing that. And it was not easy, but at the age of 30, I just got married, and my biological clock was ticking so loud, like I felt the people around me could hear it. And but it was a lot. And becoming a mother of two in the midst of that was challenging. And my babies gave me, on one hand, a new meaning and significance to life, because I was like, suddenly, wow, all that didn't mean anything, or all that was there just to bring me to here, you know?
Yeah.
I felt blessed and gratitude, but I was really, really, really good at neglecting me and neglecting my body and neglecting my soul and putting others, people in front of me. And so that part was not foreign, like putting others in front of me. And having a hectic schedule kind of helped me focus my energy somewhere else, so I didn't have to pay attention to what's going on with me. But I was tired all the time. And since I didn't have time for sad, it went straight to frustrated and overwhelmed and angry. And there was such a big part of me that felt like a victim. And I know a lot of mamas feel that, because bottom line is, though, that we neglect ourselves. That's the biggest thing. We're just so used to taking care of this like precious thing in front of us. And in the midst of creating a business, we always like, yeah, it's for them. Yeah, it's for them. And no, I can't, and everything kind of just, we put all the focus we can off of ourselves.
Yeah.
And then a little while later, you look around and you're like, whoa, what happened to me? Where am I? Who am I? What am I doing? And then we're starting to build a business and become an entrepreneur. And we didn't really set all the right foundations for us to thrive.
Yeah.
So it kind of becomes very, very, very hard. We're stretched so thin, and there's no room for us at a certain point. And nothing is yours anymore. When you go through the beginning stages of motherhood, your body's not yours, your sleep's not yours, your schedule's not yours, your thoughts are not yours, meal planning. Do I pay more attention to him? Do I pay less attention so he becomes more independent? Do I pay more attention? And then, so he knows that I'm there, and your body's just cuddler and, a holder and a hanger and everything else it needs to be. And I just realized that I need to start from inside, and then you can't pour from an empty cup, For me, it took a trip to a cardiologist that my heart was skipping beats, and had like a little bit of blood in my caffeine system kind of going on.
Yeah.
And I was just like hanging in there. And that was kind of when I got slammed in the head and be like, okay, I need to take care of me too. But it's just so easy to just give. And then when you have, and I'm continuing to talk about it just for a moment, since you did say that a lot of your listeners are mamas. And I do work with mompreneurs mostly now. And the thing is, we rush from that stage right into the stage because we want to know ourselves again, and we want to do, and we want to, we want to provide, and we want all of that as well. But we skip over that tiny stage of like first giving ourselves a hug and walking hand in hand with ourselves into this new journey as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And it just takes time. And I can tell you the main thing was noticing how my inner dialogue was, and how I spoke to myself, and how I was treating myself. And I could tell you, I was not nice to me. I was like the worst critic ever. I was like, that voice in my head was, oh, really? You think you got it done? But look at that whole list you still didn't do, right? And especially in entrepreneur life, you have lists and lists and lists of things to do and create. And that's a big thing. The create part is a very, very, very big thing, because our minds can only be either in survival or in creation mode. at one time. So when we're in survival mode, which most mamas are, we can't be in creation mode. So for example, we're in, I don't say that's a bad thing, because survival mode is, I think that's where we need to be when we have our little kids, you know, like paying attention to survival mode is like paying attention to all the dangers around our little ones, right? Around us, corners, cups that may fall on them, things that are going to crash. And so we're all the time constantly like in protective mode. Yeah. But if you think about it, after years of being in protective mode, what are you trying to protect from? Usually when we're protecting from this outside danger, which means we're trying to survive from and eliminate that danger that's about to attack us. So our mind goes into this survival mode, which leads us to victim mode, because we don't need to be there for so long. And then it's very, very, very hard to create. It's very, very hard to create this amazing business and have amazing ideas. And what is the logo going to look like? And then you're like, logo? What are you talking about? Like, what the logo? Make a logo, man. Like, you can't even like dream it up the way you do. Or sometimes you're like, okay, logo. And then you're caught up on it for too long. It can go both ways. Mm-hmm. Because it's not like flow. The creation is not flowing with ease. So I just know that a lot of it for me started with my mindset and the way where I'm putting my focus, mm-hmm. and how I'm emphasizing certain things in my life.
Yeah. One of the things that comes up for me is when you are constantly used to being in survival mode is you get to the point where without really realizing it, like subconsciously, you find ways to stay in survival mode. So now we've moved to running a business and just constantly like doing instead of like building in time and space to be creative. We think we need to fill all that time. It's like, well, I've left my corporate job. I don't work. I'm not working 40 hours a week anymore. I should be doing all of that in my business, working 40 hours a week. And so that then we just create scenarios where we're constantly in survival mode.
Right.
Because that's what we're used to. So how do you, like you said, one of the things for you was taking a step back and like looking at your mindset. Do you have like a tip that someone can, like, where does someone start?
We'll be back after a quick break.
This episode of the Ambitious Bookkeeper podcast is sponsored by my brand new free training, The Ultimate Guide to Creating a Profitable Bookkeeping Business. In just 1 hour, you will learn 3 keys to creating and launching a profitable bookkeeping business. We will map out your path to creating a bookkeeping or accounting business that keeps you in control of your time, priorities, and expertise. From someone who built a 6-figure firm on part-time hours. That's right. You can stay in control of your time, keep family as your priority, and serve your clients well. It just takes a little strategy up front, and I'm going to help you with that during this free training. So head over to the show notes to sign up now for the next training and find out how you can choose the work you do, kick imposter syndrome to the curb, use tech to be super efficient, which all leads to a profitable business. Just head on over to ambitiousbookkeeper.com/training, and I will see you there.
That inner dialogue, that should have, could have, would have, that inner critic, it could be our best friend on this journey, or it can like break us down, basically. And mine was horrible. Like, nothing was ever good enough. It was exhausting. It was like running a marathon, but there was no finish line. You know, there was years that as a young entrepreneur that it would motivate me. Like before I had kids, it was like my motivation. I was constantly like competing with myself, but I never stopped to celebrate my wins either. So I didn't even have that moment of, yeah, now let's move on. You know what I mean? I didn't have that even. Because every time I would start taking that breath of like, wow, accomplishment, that inner voice inside was like, well, you could have done this and you should have done this. And if you would have done this, this would have happened. And, and it was like not on the way of like what to improve. It wasn't like from that voice of or tone of like, let's reflect and see, great, good job on this, and maybe next time I'll do that. It was not. It was like, you didn't do this and you didn't do this. And okay, great. So you reached your end goal, but what about this? And what about this? And you can't stop to breathe. But that was how I saw everything, like all aspects of my life, like my workouts, my mama body, my progress, I criticized everything. And like, you know what? Basic thing. When someone gives you a compliment, it was like one of my first realizations, like someone gave me a compliment. Have you ever stopped to just say, wow, thank you? I had to teach myself that, like a year until I was able to like, oh, that's right. Compliment. I say, thank you. Like instead I would have had like a list of all, oh yeah, but it wasn't me. It was, they did it. And I could have done this and I should have done this and I would have done this. So like everyone was exposed to my list of like my inner critic.
Yeah.
And like, look at all these things I didn't do. So it's not a big thing, So I was always explaining how it was nothing that I did, but just knowing that everything I do is going to reflect on my children, and I can either teach them and make them strong or screw them up, which we're going to do anyway, right?
Yeah.
They're going to come to us years later, no matter what we do, and blame us for so many things. So, and like we expect like the impossible from ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing with entrepreneurship, there's two things: the journey, and some of you probably may experience this already. As an entrepreneur, especially a solopreneur, it's not easy mentally. And sometimes it gets very lonely. And you won't always feel that the people that are closest to you really have your back the way you need or want them to. Because not everyone really understands what you're doing or how you're doing it. And they don't know how to give you advice. And everyone loves giving advice. So, so sometimes they may say things and to you, it may sound like another critic is joining the party, and great. The biggest thing is self-talk. And self-talk, it's not just your own like personal radio DJ, like providing the background noise to your life. It's that voice that crafts our story. It molds our perception of ourselves and of the world around us. And it nudges our behavior one way or another. It's kind of like having like a mini life coach in your head. But it's important to remember, and that's the part that we forget, is like you're holding the megaphone. So whatever you said, like you could choose what to tell yourself, and you can choose it could be your biggest fan or your harshest critic, And positive self-talk is like having a personal cheerleader in your head and chanting affirmations. Good job. You did it. You could still do that. And that can build your confidence and make you resilient. And those are two traits that you have to nurture as an entrepreneur. We need confidence to do things, and we need resilience to get right back up when it doesn't really work out our way. So those are two very, very critical things. Now, negative self-talk is like that crabby old killjoy, in your head. And it's a bickering party pooper, and it's quick to judge, and it's fond of self-deprecation. It loves playing the victim, and it leads us to anxiety and to depression and to low self-esteem, which completely affects our choices and our decisions as entrepreneurs. And when we're building our business, because when we're building our business, we need to build good, solid foundations that we can land on. And the thing is, we don't notice that how fast we engage in negative self-talk. Like we don't realize how many times have you said to yourself, even today, like, oh, how dumb, or how'd I do that? Or I always do that, or I'm the worst at this, or I told you before and I told you I'm saying it quietly without you noticing. I'm so bad at the technical side of things, and, but it's there and we constantly say it and we constantly play out. So today, even when I say I'm so bad at the technical thing, I do add, but I'm getting better and better. Mm-hmm. I'm just getting better and better every day. I'm learning. Yeah. Because the problem is that when we believe we're not good enough, we're not. And we believe that we're predestined to fail, we will.
Yeah.
And we're less likely to step outside our comfort zone or to strive to achieve our goals and to become what we want to.
I'm jotting down notes of bullet points of things that I want to remember from this conversation, and hopefully other people are also taking notes. But yeah, I can provide examples of that, negative inner dialogue where it has held me back. There's been situations where I've been well, I don't know as much as so-and-so, so I don't really deserve to be speaking at that event. So I'm just going to bow out even though I was invited. Things like that, because that's my negative self-talk coming in and saying, well, you're not good enough to be up on that stage talking, or you're not good enough to be in the room with those people. So you may as well just show yourself out. And so I have, and I've missed out on opportunities later on being I should have just been uncomfortable and been in that room, because I would be, again, more negative self-talk. I should have just done that.
Right.
See, it's just a ripple effect.
It is. And that's exactly the thing, that it is a ripple effect. And the question is, can you share examples that quickly of positive self-talk you have in your head as well?
Probably not.
It's not our default. Our default goes right into the negative. And the way I began to combat that was, have you ever heard of the power of your subconscious mind? Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's countless research, that found that the subconscious mind controls everything besides making your coffee and walking to the coffee machine, or tying your shoe and regulating our breathing and all the functions in our body that, that we do without even thinking about them. It determines the way we think. It determines the way we feel, the way we act, the way we react, the way we believe. And it also controls our goals and our dreams and whether we can achieve them. Mm-hmm. And I say this all the time because for me, this number that I'm going to give you is it was mind blowing. So we have 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. And the thing is, 80% of our thoughts are negative. On autopilot, 80% of them go to negative. So that's around 48,000 negative thoughts a day. And the funny thing is, it's not making me laugh anymore, but 95% of them are subconscious and they're repetitive. So we're not even aware of them. So the thing is that 5% of our cognitive activity, meaning our decisions, our actions, our behavior, our emotion, are completely dependent on those 95%. And like you said, a negative thought ripples to another and another and another, right? You spill your coffee, then it becomes I can't believe that just happened. And it moves on to how dumb. And or like you said, you want to be on the stage and I can't do that. Yeah, so what if they invited me? And I didn't go. And then you feel bad about doing that. And then you criticize yourself for not going up on that stage. And then you even feel worse about that. And then next time it's going to happen, it's not really the thing that's going to push you to go on that stage. It's probably going to no, I had that opportunity. I didn't go last time, You know how you felt last time, remember? Yeah. that negative thing being on your shoulder is going to be remember how bad that went? You don't want to do that again. Why don't show up for that whole event. Why are you even going to the event? You're not going to go on stage anyway.
Yeah.
You know,
so
and
how do you suggest someone starts closing that, like stopping that loop?
Just by knowing that the positive also has that same ripple effect. So just flipping that switch. So when things go well, let's say, and especially with mamas, like my biggest thing is, where do you put in mama time? And thing that I begin with all mamas, and it doesn't have to be just mamas. It could be, you know, anyone who has other people in the house and needs a moment of peace for themselves. I make sure I wake up before the house does. But I don't do that in order to organize things for them. I do that for me. So it means, for me, that means I begin my day. I wash my face with an intention. Everything I do in those, it could be 5 minutes and it could be 30 minutes. And trust me, once you start with 5 to 15, you're going to want more mama time. It's gonna be like critical. And everything you do in those, and I'm telling you, because that will ripple, those 10 to 15 minutes will ripple throughout your day. And you have a peaceful cup of coffee, and while you're mixing your coffee, you give yourself a good positive intention. It's going to be a really good day today. Even something small like that. And once you start your morning peacefully and not wake up into the chaos of the morning when the rest of the house wakes up, you'll see suddenly that everything, you're just like an observer, and you'll be like not running around putting out fires, and you'll have the patience to deal with what's going on. And then suddenly someone smiles to you in the street, and you're aware enough to see it and smile back and accept that smile. Where in other days you were in such that chaos and that run in the morning, you couldn't even see that smile. Because those things, everything's around us all the time, right? The flowers are still there, the trees are still there, the birds and the bees. And I'm not trying to get all like, woo, you know, really like living in today. But noticing those little moments of, especially when things hit the fan that are not positive. I always used to tell my employees, okay, great. It was horrible. Wonderful. Stop. 5 good things that happened to you today. And it was so hard for them, you know, like, and I tell them small things. And they said, well, my drink tasted well. I said, great. Amazing. What else? A baby walked by and he was so cute and it made me smile. Great. Number 2. And like, we would fight to come up to become aware of those small little positive moments. Why? Because those ripple out. Because suddenly if you walk to work and you saw someone smile, suddenly you stayed with that smile for another 30 seconds even. But while you were smiling at that smile, another good thought came up. And then another good thought came up. And then that person that greets you in the office and usually cracks a joke that may annoy you sometimes, then suddenly cracks a joke and it's funny. And you're willing to accept it. Or if someone cuts you off on the way to work when you're driving, suddenly you're like, okay, you're probably in a rush, sir. Keep going and bless you on your way, instead of really having all those blessings, those horrible blessings to give him, you know? I'll give him what I think about him. Becoming aware of what we are thinking and trying to add tiny, small, happy thoughts, positive thoughts. And they don't have to be happy, happy, joy, joy. They have to be better than what we did yesterday.
Yeah.
A little bit better than before. And then a little bit better. And then a little bit better. And then what I also tell my children a lot and people around me, like, if you're eating a piece of cake and it's really good, like savor it, like enjoy that moment even more, like really appreciate those tiny things, because we're filling up more of that 95% with a little bit more. And that, again, it ripples.
Yeah.
And becoming aware of what we think and beginning with self-talk that can change and extremely shape our lives. Okay. But with the right tools, we can like use self-talk to enhance our overall well-being and to make us much more successful in our day and in our business and in everything that we do. And just by noticing the language that we use, instead of saying, why didn't you go on that stage? Right? You could have said, wow, maybe next time I will go on that stage. That's enough to change it to positive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be positive. It's just even shifting that negative and should have, could have, would have to a neutral already will allow your brain to remember it different. Because as I told you before we started recording, that our subconscious mind, it's just information. Whatever we give it, it takes. So if we're going to say, oh, this is a horrible day, it's just going to say, okay, great. Let's look at all
make
the
it
horrible
horrible.
things. Exactly. Let's look at all these horrible things around us. And if we're saying, wow, today is going to be a good day. Today is going to be a good day. And even if we are forcing ourselves in the beginning and it is made up, today is going to be a really good day. Today's going to be happy. Today's going to be a good day. Today, I'm going to take all those challenges that my kids are going to give me with ease. Today, all those business lists and things like that, they're going to be organized, and I'm going to know how to jump from one thing to another and to manage all those things. And you need to think, like, for example, little things as an entrepreneur. There are topics that you could take, like facing a product launch or overcoming failure or receiving criticism or negative feedback. And this is like if you really want to work on it. Then you could take a journal and you can write down those top, like, what do you tell yourself when you receive criticism or negative feedback? And negative self-talk is like, maybe they're right. Idea is terrible, right? Oh my God, what was I thinking? How did I come up with this, right? But then after that, like maybe you say, wow, that could be great. That's wonderful. I'm so appreciative that they caught it now because I have a great idea. I can change that into that and do that and save myself. Like we need to understand we're supposed to be failing towards success, right? That's the only way to get up there. Like toddler falls 17 times an hour, I think. I don't remember what it is, 17 times a minute when they're starting to walk. And no one's standing there and telling them, you're a failure. You don't got this. You're never going to walk. You can't do this, right? What do? We stand there and we're like, good job. Yay, it was a second and a half now. You're going to be the best runner ever. And that's basically what we got to do to ourselves. Because if we're not going to say it to our kid or to our best friend when they're down, we should stop at that moment and not say it to ourselves as well.
Yeah.
Like if you're not going to say it to someone you love, just shush. Don't say it to yourself.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good reminder. So let's do some like practical applications. Cause I know one thing that comes, first of all, my audience are bookkeepers and accountants. We love a practical application of things.
Okay.
But one thing that comes up a lot is people being kind of nervous to get on a sales call or a discovery call, or like afraid that they're not going to land the client. So what would you suggest like someone do before they get on a call like that, where they are like kind of like, oh, you're not going to land this client anyway. They have all the negative self-talk about like, you're not going to know all the answers to their questions or something like that. What should they do? What could they do instead?
So no, you're not going to land all the clients. And that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. Because we don't want everyone out there. We want the perfect people for us. We want the perfect clients. And this is me in my make-believe world, okay? Mm-hmm. But we want the perfect clients, and we want people that are going to come to us with ease, and they're going to need our services, and they're going to love our services, and they're going to love everything we can do for them. And like, for example, what if no one buys my product, right? Or what if nobody buys my service? So first of all, you say, I believe in the service that I'm giving. And no, it's not going to be right for everyone. It's not going to suit everyone. And I hope the people that are not the people that I want as my clients are not going to close with me.
Yeah.
And I want only those people that are the right customers, because the right customers are going to appreciate what I'm offering. I'm going to attract the right customers. So instead of like, I'm not going to close this one. Maybe you won't. Maybe I won't. But if he's right for me, he's going to love me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to love him. And there's going to be an amazing click. I changed the word failure to trial in my life. So I don't fail. I had another trial. So for example, I wanted to reach out to podcasts, right? So I told myself ahead of time, instead of what if they don't want me? What if they don't this? I need to do 100 outreaches to 100 different podcasts. And then even if 7 will come back to me, then 7 is perfect. 7 is a perfect number. So I just need, like, for example, you're going on a call and you're like telling yourself, okay, but I still have 20 more to go. Like, you don't want, not everyone's going to write their statistics. You're not going to nail every single call.
Yeah.
And you don't want to in the long run, because some clients are going to be such a hassle, and they're going to drain your energy, and they're going to take from you everything they can, and they're not going to give you what you need. So you're going to hope to get the right ones, and you're going to tell yourself, have a list and say, okay, I need to do 100 calls in order. How many clients do you want? 10? Great. So I need to do 100 calls to get 10. So that way, when that person didn't close with you, he's just 1 out of the 90. He's getting you much closer to your 10, right? Because you need to get through 100 to get to the 10. So suddenly you're not worried when he doesn't close with you, because he's just one of the statistics.
Yeah.
So you just reframe it in a way that makes you less fearful for it.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you. So good. So good. Okay. So the other thing that I kind of want to jam on is, now that we've gotten the practical client application underway, how about the negative self-talk around mom guilt or feeling guilty as a parent, not doing all the things, quote unquote, you should be doing when you're working on your business, you're neglecting your kids, or whatever kind of thoughts that you have around that. What are some of the specific things that we can say to ourselves that combat that negative guilt?
Guilt is a big one with mamas. Like we like, as much as I could tell you, I have improved so much. The more I talk about inner dialogue, and the more I talk with mamas about mama guilt, that comes up more and more in my life, to say, hey, you forgot to take care of that one, and you forgot to take care of that one, you forgot to take care of that. So I don't really think you ever get there, because it's just part of our being, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But when we understand that we can't pour from an empty glass, and when we understand that when we are close to that empty glass, we make them miserable, we're not good mamas. So if we're not doing things for ourselves, if we're not creating this business that we dream to create, or fulfill ourselves, like we're accomplishing an income or whatever it is, it doesn't matter what is important to you. But if you're not doing the things that are important to you, you'll find yourself becoming more and more frustrated and more aggravated, and you're not going to be a nice mama. So when you are doing something for yourself, you're actually doing it for them in a different way. Like it comes this way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's around, but you are doing it for them as well. Because when you're, even if they're not going to enjoy the money, okay, it doesn't matter. You're not doing it for them so they have a business to run. You're doing it for them because you need to feel fulfilled, because you need to fill your glass in order to be able to nurture them and be able to give them. And I remember I would go out with friends, and it was like, it took me like, it was the first time I left after having my third baby. And I was like, oh my God, and my husband, but he likes it. And then my older kids, that's when I talk to them. And that's when I get, all the info about school, all the good details, at night.
At bedtime. Yeah.
Suddenly they're so talkative. Suddenly so many things come up that they didn't, if in the car it's like, good, okay. Suddenly at night, all the things, they don't want to go to sleep, but you get a lot of information. I was like, yeah, but, and then my friends would say like, okay, but you're not there now, right? I was like, no, I'm not. Okay. So why don't we take this opportunity? It was like, suddenly you start thinking to yourself, why don't I take this opportunity? I'm here now.
Mm-hmm.
So I really, really, really enjoy it in order to fill my glass, in order to fill my heart, in order to fill my lungs with air, with oxygen, and like be able to be there for them, because they're not counting hours. They're not, oh, mom was with me 5 hours today, or mom was with me 2 hours today. If you give your child 20 minutes, 10 minutes of undivided attention, like 10 minutes 2 times a day, that you're just like dropping everything and sitting down with them on the floor, and even just talking to them or sitting next to them while they play, they will remember those 10 minutes more than they remember if you were there 5 hours or 2 hours or whatever. So even if you're a really busy mama, and we all are really busy mamas, if we allow ourselves to, like, when we are with them, when they start telling those stories that you're like, oh my God, this story's not ending, right? But exactly in that moment, if you would drop everything and like, okay, I'm going to listen to this story, and just slow yourself down to their height, or bring them up to the counter so you're at, and we're same eye level, and kind of really be there. You'll see that suddenly that story is hilarious, or that is such a cool story, or you learn so much about them throughout those 5 minutes of their story, of how they were engaging with a friend, or how they dealt with something, or what they saw was funny, and you'll learn so much more from them in those 5 to 10 minutes than you do when you're hanging out with them for 5 hours and cooking and cleaning and like in the midst of all the craziness.
Mm-hmm.
You'll get so much more if we just learn to be present for short moments. You could be crazy hectic in the kitchen, and then they come to talk to you, and you're like, okay, now remember Sharon said, let go of okay, put everything on low, or shut everything off for a second, and just like take a deep breath and just listen and just be there present with them. You'll see that they'll appreciate it much more. They won't be nagging as much for your attention, because they just had your undivided attention, and it'll fulfill them as much as they need for that moment. You know what I mean? Because sometimes they need, just at that moment, they just need you to listen, or they're just trying to make you laugh for a second, or they're just trying to get your attention for whatever. And if you give it to them, they can go and play and be on their own for a moment, and you can do your things, and everyone's happy.
Yeah.
But when we try and like do everything together and all the time, I think that's when we lose balance. That's when we get off balance. And that when we're off balance, the guilt starts to celebrate and it takes over everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And guilt and resentment are such low vibration energies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
and it
that's
feeds
what
the
starts
negative
to
self-talk.
Yeah, it feeds negative self-talk. That starts to breed depression, anxiety, all those things.
Yeah. And it affects everything. And you can't, and when it doesn't work out, just say, oh, I'm getting better and better. I'm getting better and better. I think there were times that I used to listen to Abraham Hicks and it's amazing. And like, but the biggest thing I took was getting better and better every day. I'm getting better and better. And like, instead of putting yourself down for not being able to disconnect and listen to them or not being able to be present with them, just be like, okay, so today, no, but I'm getting better and better, and I'll find that time and just keep being that cheerleader for yourself, even when it's not going well.
Yeah.
What are you going to tell them when they're not doing it right? Are you going to tell them, oh, you're such a loser? You did, but that's how we talk to ourselves,
Yeah, I know.
like, what a loser. Like, it's like, what a loser. Well, how could you not pay attention to your child right now when you're working all the time? No, like, wow, I'm doing my best. I'm really doing my best, and I'm going to get better.
Yeah. Oh, so good.
Yeah, just keep feeding your positive self-talk, and it takes time, and do it in baby steps and tiny steps, because you know what happens when we don't. You should have, and you could have, and you would have, and
yeah.
Yeah, it just makes things harder.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so we're about at the end of our time. If somebody wants to work with you or connect with you, learn more about what you have going on, which, by the way, what do you have going on in your world business-wise that you would like to share?
First of all, for all those that didn't write notes or want more about inner dialogue, I'm going to leave you with an ebook that you can download that'll give you all the information that you want, and you can connect. I will also leave my Instagram for Serena and everything like that. And my website is Sharon Hefetz Consulting. And you can connect to me whichever way you want. I have courses for mamas. I do a 12-step program for mamas that kind of lost their way a little bit and trying to rediscover and reconnect to their authentic selves, and to re-become kind of the best version of themselves. And best version, again, we get better and better all the time. We're never going to get there, because every time we do, we're going to want more. So you can't always be feeling in lack, but just rediscovering and reconnecting to yourself and learning how to strengthen and be nicer and find ways to thrive. So I have a 12-step program coming out soon. And as of now, I have an online course called Happy Balanced Mom, which does talk about a lot of these things that we spoke about today. And you can find that on my website.
Wonderful.
And whoever has a question or anything, I'm here always. So you could just write me and I'll write you back, and with pleasure. Awesome. I'm always here for whoever needs me.
Thank you so much. We will link all of your links in the show notes. And yes, please connect with her as soon as you can. When you listen to this episode, feel free to reach out to her and let her know that you found it valuable if you did. So thank you so much for your time, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I feel honored. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone who helps make this podcast possible. Content and interviews are produced by me, Serena Shu. Our intro and outro music is written and performed by my brother, Ian Gilliam. Editing is also by Ian using his awesome sound engineering skills along with Descript software. Hosting and publishing is by Buzzsprout, and you can check out the show notes for links to all of these amazing resources and resources mentioned in the episode.
Be ambitious.